Today, we are meeting with Jackie Romano, founder and executive creative director at Realign Design. From logo to website creation and social media management, honestly, she does it all. And today, we are talking about the power of visual branding for small business owners. Let's dive in. Jackie, I am so excited that you are here because we're going to talk about something that is so incredibly important for large businesses, but also small businesses. And that is the power of visual branding. So,
Yes.
thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you. What do you see small businesses use in terms of content? Like what are some of the things you're hearing from your people?
Yeah, most of the things that I'm seeing and hearing are small businesses, they're on a tight budget. They don't
Yeah.
have the big corporate that we're used to dealing with. These corporations have tons of money. When you're dealing with a small business, they are budgeting for everything. So that means that the pie is much smaller when it comes to their marketing budget. And I feel like a lot of small businesses will cut corners when they can. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes what they cut corners on are the things that they should be investing the most in. So what I see with, especially with a lot of the websites, a lot of social, is a lot of DIY. I see, cell phones are great. They are high quality, but if in the wrong hands or you don't really know what you're doing or you don't have a strategy, it's great for stories, but for your website pictures or for your post, I think you can tell when something's done professionally and when it's not. And then what I see a lot of people going to Google and Googling these like stock images, which are just images that are available for everybody. You see all over the place.
Mhm.
And they're generic and they're not really representing their brand as best as they could.
Yeah. Yeah. I find the same thing. And I'll be honest with you, even when I was in corporate, the corporation that I worked for would spend money on stock images. And I was actually responsible for those stock images, those images that live in a library like Shutterstock, even Google. Some people can source images from there, Unsplash. Like there are many places where you can source these generic stock Google images. And the problem with those is that everybody has access to them, just like you're able to access them, everybody else can. And one might say, well, who cares? Nobody's really going to be comparing my website to another. But the problem is that, yeah, no, right? That's such a misconception. It's such a misconception. What I found was that, let's say, for example, there was a woman on a computer typing something. Said woman in our company was the head of HR. Somebody else could download her and be the head of the office in their reception. Somebody else could download her and she was a lawyer. And the problem is that when you see an image, the same image over and over in different places, it loses its specialness, right? It
Absolutely.
loses that ability to connect because now it's almost like that house plant, like that plastic house plant. It's nice, but it's not real. And so you can't really connect with it. And you wouldn't necessarily give somebody a house plant. Well,
Is
maybe
that what's
some.
behind you?
No, this one's real. She's dying. I'm watering her. I promise. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so even large corporations, they were investing in stock. And that's what actually kind of made me like realize, hey, we really need to show up like the company that we say we are with the people
Right.
that actually are a part of the organization and tell our story through them. And that's kind of really how I got started. But the idea of these DIY photos and the
Right.
iPhone photos, oh my gosh, Jackie, I think the other misconception around branding is that I just need pictures. I just need content. And there is a difference between content
Right.
and branding photos, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
you're not saying an iPhone photo is no good.
No, I was totally going to say that too. It definitely has its place. And I think it's great because it gets more creators out there being able to do things, small businesses being able to show, hey, this is a day in the life. We're in the trenches or behind the scenes. I think all of that is great. That is showing who you are in your business every day, showing up. And you don't want it to be staged for that because that is being authentic. We found that that's what people are looking for is authentic content. So definitely has a place. But when you're doing your hero image, which is that big image on the website, that's not something that you want to take a chance with. That you want to make sure that you're really showing your brand and your message.
Right.
That is so important. I mean, you said, it doesn't matter. I mean, I know you don't think that, but some people are like, I just got to get an image up.
Yeah.
Looks good is good. And it's like, no, it really, you have 5 to 10 seconds to make an impression when someone lands on your website.
Yep.
That's it. That is instant. People have like almost a visceral reaction to the imaging they see.
Yep.
So if you don't make that work in that amount of time, people are going to bounce and they're not
Right.
even going to see the rest of your website or the good things you do or your business. So it's that important.
Yeah, you're not even going to get a chance to give them that experience because,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you said impression because it's something that I am currently just studying up. Impression. What is that? What does that word mean? And really, I found it's the Latin root of it is impere, which means to impress into,
Mm,
right? So, not just like show up and let people see you, but it is literally like an imprint. I use clay and Play-Doh. Like every time you're showing up, you're making an impression, right?
right.
When somebody lands on your website, it's an impression.
Yep.
It's literally shaping how they perceive you. And so if you do have an iPhone photo, they're likely going to connect, hey, this person as either not taking their business very seriously, they
Right.
just started. But you could have all the experience in the world, but if you don't have good photography, it's going to show up like you're just starting. It's going to say, that you really don't care. I hate to say that, but I've had somebody say to me, like, if I go to the website and they don't really have good pictures, I just assume they really don't care about their business. So why should they care?
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, I mean, that's harsh. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the story that you told me about a client that you had that you wanted to work with and you looked at his, the content that he was putting out and it looked so impressive. And when you reached out to him, you found out he was just starting out. So
Yeah.
that's the power of kind of the fake it till you make it. And to project the image you want to be and where you want to be makes all the difference in the world. Nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's really what you're presenting out. So, I mean, that was a great story. I think that
Yeah.
really shows the power of that.
Yeah, I honestly I looked him up online and I thought, wow, this guy must really know, his stuff. I just loved the way his videos and the content he was putting out. And when I did in fact connect with him, he'd only been in business for a year. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the power of perception. And I almost feel like the other part of that is people might feel like, well, I feel like I'm lying. I feel like that's not really who I am, right? And that's not true. Like this gentleman, like people could say, well, he's not really operating at that level. It's brand positioning. If we shift our perspective around that very idea, you are positioning yourself as the expert that you want to be known for. That
Mhm.
is the power of brand positioning. Putting yourself in that seat before you are there because you can operate at that level, right? This guy
Right.
knows he can deliver great service. And so these images really have helped him stand in that branding, position that branding as the expert he wants to be known for. So I think it's just really, really powerful.
Right. Yeah. I think there's something to, what you said, it's where you want to be. It's,
Mhm.
you have the skills, you have the talent.
Yeah.
It's almost like that power of positive thinking. Words have power. If you say, I'm going to do this and I can, this is where I want to be, that has power behind it. Same as your imagery, same as the content that you put out and the words you use.
Yeah, it's so true. I actually was reading a case study around just how visuals can make impressions. And the truth is that a picture is 60,000 times more powerful than words alone, right?
Right.
So if your website says, I am leading in my industry, but you have iPhone images that don't show you leading, that don't show you forward thinking, there's a disconnect. And that's why people bounce off, right?
Yep.
Because you could have the most experience, but if you're not seeing that, it's a
Yeah.
very first thing they see. And so, just kind of circling back to what you said around that, like that's why people bounce off. Like if you don't have that, right? And it goes to your visuals, right? It goes to how you show up with your branding, the consistency in your branding. That's another piece
Oh
too.
my
Like
gosh. Yeah.
we
Consistency.
can have
That's another issue.
the whole yeah, tell me what you hear from people. They're like, okay, yeah, great, Jackie, thank you so much for helping me with my website. And that's in their mind, they're done.
Yeah. So whenever I have a consultation with someone, it's the first thing I bring up is the branding, because you can't build a website if you don't have a brand. So, and most people are like, oh, yeah, I have my logo. It's like, great. Logo is great, but a logo is only a small piece of your brand. So I actually just talked about this the other day with the Chamber of Commerce and talking to the people, small business owners, like how many people have a brand kit? And, a lot of people do. Some people don't even know what that is. So I always go into my consultations, if it's web or if it's social, whatever it is, going and asking about their brand, like, where is your brand? What do you have representing it? Do you have a kit? So, just to be clear, a brand kit doesn't have to be a whole actual physical kit or even a digital, guide book. It could be as simple as a one pager
Hmm.
that has the most important things on it, like, okay, your logo, sure. Your brand colors. Using your brand colors consistently is super important because if you think about the Coca-Cola red, and I
Hmm.
know anybody who's done any branding has studied Coca-Cola or
Yeah.
McDonald's, because they are, paramount in branding. They do not waver from that red.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they've had brand refreshes, same with McDonald's, but that red, they don't waver from it. It's always
Yeah.
consistent. Same with McDonald's, that, the golden oranges, that yellow color is consistent. They do
Yeah.
not change unless they do a brand refresh. But
Yeah.
even that, it's just a tweaking of that.
Yeah.
So having your brand colors, using those consistently, using those even in your photography, in your
Yeah.
imagery, having your fonts, a set style of fonts so that your fonts aren't all over the place. There's a meme that I've sent out that I love. It's something like, I will always love you, or something like that, or I will follow you. And it's like in a friendly font, and then like there's like that killer font, and it changes the entire intent of the words that you're putting. So fonts are super important too, the way that you're using them, but using them consistently. And then your values, your mission, and then your tone of voice. So what is your brand representing? Is it something, maybe it's a law office and you have to be very, you're dealing with a lot of legalities and restrictions and things that you have to, definitely be careful. This isn't a light and whimsy kind of brand. You need to have a more serious tone where somebody who's like writing child's books can have that more whimsy. So
Yeah.
it's having that tone of voice that carries through everything, including your photography.
It's
So putting together a brand kit, no matter how small a business you are, is important to keep that consistency. And it's sustainable because hopefully, or maybe you grow, you want to be able to hand that off to your designers, to your developers, to your photographers, to videographers, anybody that you work with, and be like, here's my brand kit. And they know immediately what your brand is representing, and it makes it much more strategic and easier to keep the consistency.
It's so true. And you pointed out that when it comes to working with a client, I always love to include either something that's branded of theirs or their colors, because again, that repetition is
Mhm,
so important. And I will say that some people think, oh, I only need a couple of images, and that's really great to show up like online. But when you think about the number of materials you want to put together as you grow, there are going to be more things that you want to put your own personal brand into it, right? So I have
mhm,
a realtor who, when he started out, he was like, I really, he took his brand very serious from the start. And I honestly think that's why he has been so successful, because he was not playing around. He was like, once he decided this is what he wanted to do, he went all in. And he
mhm,
talks about that. And when him and I got to work together, what he was looking to do was remove all of the stock images that he had in his marketing and put himself in the story. And
mhm.
I'll hear people say, "Well, I don't want to be the face of the brand, and I don't want my face to be all over the place." And I actually just had a conversation with a potential lead around that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts around that because I have my own perspective, but I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I hate being in
Yeah,
front of the camera,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you do have to do it. You are your
Why
brand.
do you
You
think?
are representing your brand. So, as much as you are uncomfortable, and so many people are uncomfortable being in front of the camera, you have to put yourself out there as a brand owner. You have to put your face with it because people work with people, they don't work with
Yeah,
companies.
yeah,
I had a client that I worked with, and I'm not the only branding person, web person, designer. There's a million of them out there, right? So why choose me? Why work with me? It's because they knew me, right?
mhm,
So I had somebody who wanted coaching on strategy, getting her messaging and website. And even though I knew that there were other people that she had been approached by, she chose me because she says, I want to work with you. So
yeah,
that is the power of your personal branding representing the face of what you're doing. It's
yeah,
really important.
yeah,
And again, it's not going to be comfortable, but you know what? You just have to do it. And once you get out there and you kind of start doing it, it becomes more comfortable.
yeah,
And putting your face with your behind your brand is the thing that people are going to want to work with you. They want to know you. They want to know your
mhm,
personality. Not everybody is for everybody. I'm not for everybody. There's certain people that you click with. There's certain people that you have fun with and that you want to work with. hopefully that's me or you, but we're not for everybody. So
That's okay, right?
that's
Yeah.
the
It's
thing,
actually
right?
like it's actually I find it to be I want to get back to it, but I feel like it's like it's almost like a hack, right? Like to find the people that actually want to work with you and that you're going to have a good time working with them too, because it
Right,
has to be fun both ways.
right.
Like if somebody connects with you based on what they see online, great. You're like more likely to have a better time working together than,
Yes.
attracting somebody who has no idea who you are, what you do, or what you look
Right.
like when you come on board. And there's just like this little bit of friction from the
Yeah.
beginning, and
It's
that's
almost
not always the case.
Yeah, it's almost like online dating, right? You're kind of swiping for that
So
person that you're going to
true.
connect with. But
Yeah.
it's so true. I mean, it is. It's just another relationship, and client uh, relationships are the same thing. You want to have a good experience. You want to connect with the person that you're working with and know that they get you. So when you do this and you put yourself out there online and you have your face and you're, writing some of your own stuff and putting your own kind of personality into it, people are going to get a much better idea of who you are and what you do. And
Mhm.
you're more likely to have clients that are going to seek you out, first of all, and they're going to be like your clients, your people. And I think that saves time and it
Yeah.
saves, a lot of the back and forth. You don't have to have a call with everybody because they already know who you are because you're already putting that out there.
Yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, people want to work with people.
Yep.
They don't connect with logos as amazing and as
Right.
important as logos are for like large organizations. But even those large organizations, they have pictures of their people because
They
people
do.
connect with faces, right? They want to see your face, they want to see your process. And, when you do that through custom photography, you're not just saying, I do this, you're actually showing them,
Hmm.
showing you, showing your experience, showing your business. In the world, this is me, this is who I am, this is who you get to work with. Yeah, I think another way to think about this too is like, you ever notice how you trust people the more you see them? That's actually called something. It's called the mirror exposure effect. And so
Mm,
what that means is that when people see you in your brand photos, they start to feel like they know you. They start to experience
right.
you even before they've even met you, right? And that feeling of knowing, that's what trust is rooted in, right? And
Right.
so really, really important to have those brand images that show you, in your photos.
Absolutely.
It creates connection, really.
So you're so right. The power of know, like, and trust, right? That's what we all kind of have to go through to build your clientele, to get that. It's so important. Know, like, and trust.
For sure. And I think, because we share so much online, there is a bit of that can be too much, like TMI
Well,
almost.
yeah.
No, I say this because I will have potential leads that they're like, oh yeah, I'm on social media, but they're posting things that I'm like people want to get to know you, but you want to make sure that you are still credible, right? Just
Right.
because like and trust someone doesn't mean you're going to trust them with your hair. You might trust them to deliver a meal, but you're not necessarily going to trust them to care for your kids, to do your website, to take your photos. Like it's
Right.
still very important for you to show up as credible. And so that's why, the iPhone photos, they're to a point, they make you look more approachable, like just more like everyday kind of person, but it doesn't scream credible, expert, pro, none of that. Excellence.
Well, and I think that's where you kind of come in and I come in a little bit different approaches, but it's that strategy.
Yeah, for sure.
So for you, I know that when you work with people, you build a strategy around
Mhm.
what are these pictures are going to, what are the end result going to look like? But you build on that strategy of where you want to be, what you want to show,
Right.
and to build that credibility, right? So I do the same thing with my clients. I'll talk about the strategy.
Mhm.
You want a new website. Okay, anybody could build a website, but what is the end goal? And let's
Right.
strategize on how we can position you in that. So, especially with social too, there's like
Yeah.
pillars of content that we, create for them so that you're right. It's know, like, and trust, but in a strategic way.
Yeah, I actually was talking to somebody who was sharing that, there could be a time where you share so much that you might come across as distracted, right? Like if you're sharing, like, oh, I'm late to pick up my kid, and oh my God, I'm doing like the question that when somebody's trying to hire you is like, does this person have the capability, the capacity to take on my brand? And
Mhm.
so you almost have to be very careful how much you share
Oh,
because
yeah.
it can break down credibility.
Yeah, I mean, we're all human, that's the thing, but
Yeah.
you said you don't wanna, overshare on
No,
things like
no.
that. We are human, and we
Yeah.
do all have those things we're running late for our kids, where we burn dinner or whatever. Like, you don't need to share that on your. You can do that on your personal page, but not on your business page.
I actually, what comes to mind is I know someone who's looking to work with a specific type of group, and she's always talking about being late and not being able to finish her deadlines and not being able to do this. And it's like you're trying to be relatable, right? That you get it,
Right.
but also you're also saying I can't keep up.
Right.
That there's a fine balance is what I'm saying. And when they work with you, I'm sure there's a way between saying I can help you in your timeliness, in your productivity, because I am also one of those people that used to struggle with that, and
Right.
here's how I overcame it, right?
Right.
But if you're constantly saying I'm struggling with this, then it's
Yeah,
just
I would
I,
question that.
I'm not sure you're my person. But anyway, yes, to your point, when you're building content strategy, pillars, and all that, it's important to show up in that pillar, like that pillar of like humanness. But
Hmm.
there's a balance and there's a trick to how you do that for sure. You mentioned something around partnership, and I love this. I don't know if partnership is the way you said it, but it came around to consistency because when people come to work with me, they're like, I just need some photos. And for sure, I can take pictures, but are they really serving you? Same thing
Right.
with you, right? Like I can create a
Right.
website for you, but
Yep.
is it actually going to move your business forward? And that's
Right.
the difference between working with someone who has done it for large organizations and who's doing this solely this, and someone who is kind of doing a little bit of everything and doing, different types of photography and also focusing on this. It's really honing in on that skill and saying, how can we actually create something that will move your business forward? And I will say that your brand is almost like it's like a milestone. It's an impression. It is a current place on where you're at, but it doesn't mean it can never change.
Right.
Right? I think a lot of people get stuck on I'm going to wait until I can figure this out, or I can make more money, or I can draw in more clients. But the reality is that your brand is happening now, right? So whether they have a website or not, people are looking for you. And if you don't have a website, that says a lot.
Or a bad website
Hmm?
that misrepresents your brand,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
that's almost doing more damage than
Right.
not. Yeah.
Exactly. It creates a cognitive bias in your mind where you're like, like when the minute you see that brand, you decide I trust or I don't, right? And almost correcting that takes so much more work because now you're having to correct that cognitive bias that person has about you in a way that shows them what you really are, because now they're believing something different that's completely not true. And it's such a shame, right? Because you can serve them, but they don't believe you
Well,
because
and that's,
fresh.
taking ownership of your brand. You're kind of the captain of your ship there. You're the one steering it.
Yep.
So, like again, I think small business owners, especially I work with a lot of small business owners, they have so much. They're wearing so many different hats, trying to do so many different things. And for them, it's like, oh yeah, my marketing, I have a logo, I'm good. Like they just automatically kind of check it off without really realizing it's much more than that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how, like, if I had the pie chart, I would say, like, it's 90%, your brand is 90% important. I mean, yes, what you do and having the skills to do what you do and serve and your products, absolutely. But to be able to get that word out, impression is everything. Like you said, the first time you see something, the first time you see the logo, the first time you see the person, all of that matters and keeping it consistent. And you're being the owner of the brand, you have to make sure that you're steering it where you want it to go
Yeah.
and being strategic too, because you don't want to throw bad money after good, right? You want
No.
it to be, instead of just being like you said, oh, I'll just do this for right now until I really start making, money. And look, we all are on budgets, right? If we had unlimited blank checks, it would be great, but it's being smart about where you're investing that
Mhm.
money and where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Right.
I hate to use these kind of like, catchphrases, but it is true.
Yeah.
It's like, where are you going to get the biggest return on investment? And like, we're using corporate speak because we've been in corporate for so long
Yeah.
too, but it applies to small businesses.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People want to see a return on what they're putting in.
Yeah.
So, when they get that stock photography or they maybe buy a few images that are, just somebody taking pictures of them without the strategy behind, you're not going to see the same kind of return
Yeah.
as when you're targeting what you want to do and being smart about it and having your website. let's talk about your goals. What do you want? Do you want more visitors? Do you want more sales? Let's get the images put together and let's lead the user where you want them to go, and being
Right.
strategic and targeted and getting the most out of your money.
Yeah, because user experience is something else you offer your clients. It's not just about building a
Yep.
website, it's what is the type of experience that they
Yep.
have when they land on your website, right? Because you can
Absolutely.
have a great, header and then they don't know where to go. So,
Right. Yeah, it's not an add-on, it's what I do. It's, usability specialist, which means making sure that every user that goes on every user experience is a good one. They're
mhm,
not getting stuck, they're not getting pain points, they're not confused, like, "What image is this? Where am I going?" Like, and using I think that's the other thing we didn't talk about is, like, using images strategically.
yeah,
I used to get this all the time, I do now, but even in corporate was like, "We need a picture there. There needs to be something there. Let's put a picture of, like you said, the famous, like, woman sitting at a laptop."
she's always
Which we see
typing. She's always
themselves
typing.
all standing around the boardroom at the table, pointing into something or pointing at the whiteboard, I mean,
Random people. Yeah.
random people, right? Let's just throw an image in because we have this white space. It's like, well, what is that doing? Like, you want everything, think of it as like precious real estate,
Yeah.
really, and how you want to use it, and using your images to get you to that goal that you want, and to use your images strategically, I think is much more important. And you work with the clients to make sure that you're capturing that.
Yep. Yep. And that's the other thing I want to say too. Like that first impression is really important, but you have to earn their continued engagement,
Right.
right? Like because great, you brought them in, you had that really great headshot. Oh my gosh, you look amazing. You land on the site and it's like, wait, so who again? It's just like now continued stock images just gives that feeling. I'm like, is he really the expert, like who's really on the team, who's actually going to help me? It creates that feeling of confusion, and if
Mhm.
somebody has to decipher who's on what team, they're going to bounce another thing, right? So it's not
Yeah.
just that first impression, it's continued experience is so important. And I would almost say that like in order to one really easy way to do that is just find someone that you can work with or want to work with that understands you, that helps you move forward, and then stick to that person, because
Mhm.
there are different ways people operate. The way you work is different to other people, the way I work is different to other people, but if you have one person capturing your brand photography, one person creating your marketing, your website, all that, there's going to be consistency there
Right.
because it's the same person, right? And so I think there's power in working with someone and partnering with them is what I like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then, like I said, it's building that relationship, and I think with both of us, we have relationships with our clients that we understand
Yes.
them. We take the time to get to know them, what makes them tick, what's their pain points. Let's see if we can alleviate some of that. Let's work towards a common goal because that is our goal too, is to help the clients get
Yeah.
to their where they want to be.
Thank you so much for being here. This has been lovely. Honestly, we could probably do one or two more
Oh,
sessions. I know about this topic, just because we're so passionate about it, and there's just so much to cover. But I really appreciate you being here, spending some time with us, and sharing your knowledge and your experience. So I hope you'll come back. All right.
no, thank you so much. This was great, and I'd love to be able to come back and explore some more topics to help small businesses and really get the word out there.
Yeah, Jackie. And where can people find you? I guess we'll drop it in the link to
Yep.
your website
So,
and your Instagram.
yep, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and obviously have a website. It's Realigned Design, but we'll put everything down in the bottom.
Sounds great. All right, Jackie. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.